Actually, like talking all the way over, but I thought it was still I would have been like, I
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Joni Sappho isn't here yet, either she's running late or she's forgotten us, but he's the important part anyway.
I'm not sure how important I will be because I can guarantee she knows a lot more about this than I do. But hey, we're gonna learn together. So, filing instructions and registration. This is the 21st century. It's all online. Jake,
Will all of this PowerPoint be emailed to us so we don't have to take notes?
are we allowed
We'll
to
send it
this
out.
Yes, we'll be able to send it out. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, no need to write down the URL for everything.
Okay, cool, thank you.
So, like any good law student, we should always read the instructions first. So before you start your application, make sure you read the instructions. It goes step by step. It's very detailed. The application process is long, and so you gotta make sure you do it right. Then you'll register with the Utah Bar through their admissions portal. And there'll be the basic information, but at that point, the application process begins. Can you hear me? You good? Yeah.
No.
Good. No?
The mic keeps cutting in and
Oh,
out.
man. Okay, is this good?
Yes.
Okay. So, for the July bar application, it's $550, which is another expense on top of everything else you're doing, which is great. And they charge you money to use your own computer too, which is also fun. But more importantly, make sure if you're gonna take the bar here, make sure you did it on time. Make sure you apply on time. There are late fees, as you see right here. So March 1st is the day. You have a grace period afterwards with late fees, but make sure you, why pay more? This should not apply to anyone here because it's too late. So hopefully you don't need to know about the February bar application, although how many 2Ls are here right now? Okay, so this gives you a good idea of what the time frame will be for next year's. Our 2006 bar exam in 2019 in February. It's a long time. But once again, October 1st will be your big day. So, things you need to do. Just like everything else in law school, you need a passport photo. So, must be taken within 6 months of when you will apply. I haven't changed at all, except weight in the last 10 years, but I will get a new passport photo. Also, very important too, which I highly recommend, is dress accordingly for your passport photo. It will be the photo that will be on your actual card that you'll use as a bar member. For the MPRE recently, I was wearing a hoodie, a different law school, of course, and also very wild beard. It was early in the morning, and I was very angry being at Costco. Because these are the places that offer passport photos. The cheapest one that I've found is Costco, so if you're a member, I would highly recommend that place. FedEx down the street offers a student discount for their passport photos, I'm told. AAA, if you have that, I guess. Anyone above the age of 65 here?
Dick, you just left.
So, but these are all different options. So, right here, your DMV records. Very important to know. So you'll need to have a record from your last 3 years, and just so you know, your DMV record might not have all the information that you will need. So you actually might have to check with the city or wherever your traffic violation occurred for any infraction that you might have had in the past. I'm curious about this because I was a 17-year-old in Oregon who got pulled over for speeding in a school zone. I was profiled, I had long hair and a really bad teenage beard, so. But you can also, but for Utah, you can actually request your driver's license record online, once again. If you can't find an online source, request your record, or for any other infraction through a city, you might have to do it in writing, so make sure you plan ahead accordingly. This is much like the application process, even though you have March 1st is like the deadline, get started early, especially if you're a bad driver. Fingerprints. Who's done fingerprinting here before? I have. It is a blast. I've been to the Bureau of Criminal Investigations out in Kearns, which is always a blast as well if you've been out there. It's right behind McDonald's, I believe. But these are all different options right here. I did not know the University of Utah offered fingerprinting, but that would just be an easy source. But all locations will require a picture ID. You get your times right here, cost. If you have phone numbers, you have questions. Some places require appointments, but the Bureau of Criminal Investigations, if you're out on the west side of the valley, is really simple. So,
How many cards do you need?
I believe just one card for just one card. And so BCI gives you 3 cards, which is great. So you can show your friends afterwards, hang on your
The
fridge.
thing you can do is just send them, because if they can't read one of the sets, they'll try the other.
Okay.
Unless you have some reason you want to keep your finger.
And there's no reason to keep one, trust me. And by the way, this is Joni Seiko from the Utah Bar. So she's the professional. Hi, Ken.
Would there be any way or interest in having someone come here and do fingerprinting for everyone?
Is that an option? I don't. I
know
have no
somebody's
idea if
licensed
that's
to do
like.
it, so.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not sure if there's we have someone come on site to do that, but that's a possibility. Especially if the University of campus security does something, it's something to look into. Save me a drive. I don't want to go back to Kearns, so when you do actually send your fingerprints in, it'll be going to the FBI. So you get a card. Do not fold. Do not staple. Make sure your payment has to be a certified check or money order, or a credit card. But do not send a personal check. So once again, make sure follow the rules. It'll make your life much easier, and nothing's worse than receiving a letter back from the FBI saying you did something wrong. Well, it's a bad thing though. So recommendations. Once again, start early. Processing can range from 4 to 20 weeks. I'm hoping I'm a 4-week person, but who knows? Maybe they'll think I'm a 20-week person. I'm not sure how much they know about me. When you have your fingerprint card in the box, make sure it's labeled for personal under the reason for your fingerprinting. It'll just make your life much easier. If the FBI has not returned your background check by the application deadline, you will need to include the FBI declaration form and proof of mailing as part of your application. So keep a record of your application going to the FBI just in case. It'll save you a headache. To provide proof that the request for a background check has been sent to the FBI, a copy of the mailing receipt showing the tracking or article number must be attached to the declaration form. So once again, get cozy with your post office. Yes?
March 1st is 16 weeks away. So, if we do it today and it takes a standard 20 weeks, does that mean we can't take the bar in July?
No, that's why we let you do the declaration instead.
Okay.
So that, by doing that, but that's why we say you definitely want the tracking information, because you're right, it's probably likely, it's more like 20 weeks right now. And it's just because of volume, the FBI just takes the next round on top of the pile. And so you'll probably all want to have that mailing receipt, and you attach it to the declaration that says, this is when I sent it.
Yeah, which is actually really cool because nothing's worse than waiting on someone else to send you back information. And so, another good thing as part of this as well, if you haven't received a response in 2 to 3 months, follow up with the FBI. This is kind of scary right here. Background requests do get lost, which would just be another great thing to happen during this whole process. want to follow up sooner than later. Do not wait to follow up until after the exam. By then, you may not be able to get your results back in time if you have to file any requests before you're sworn in or you're. So, the completed report must be submitted by the middle of the month preceding the motion for admission. So, contact the FBI for names of approved channelers. These entities can send your fingerprints electronically for an additional fee to help expedite the process, if need be, if you're feeling a time crunch. But hopefully, we all did it correctly the first time, and the FBI moves quickly for us. Who knows? Character references. Yes.
Will the FBI respond to us about our application or to the bar? Like, who are they going to, like, give the response to?
It's a personal response, so it has to go back to you, and then you just upload it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so it's you and the FBI. Aaron.
If you've had a recent FBI background check, is there some way that you can just use that?
No, not usually, because the only way you could do it would be to get that background check, and most employers or whatever won't release it.
Yeah. It's, just follow the rules, it'll be worth it. Character references are my favorite. So we all need 6 character reference forms. 2 forms need to be completed by individuals generally known to the applicant, which can't include family, classmates, or romantic partners, which is great because those are the people who would say the meanest things about me. like my dad's still trying to prevent me from becoming a lawyer, so so he's out of the picture. It's great. You also need 2 forms by 2 lawyers. Your professors can qualify if they're licensed to practice here, so just check beforehand if you're going to ask a
Or
professor.
licensed anywhere.
Oh, licensed
Doesn't have to
anywhere?
be
Okay,
a
okay, good. And then 2 from employers. So, once again, give the references, the character references time. Don't rush it upon them. I think it'll make your life much easier as well. Yes?
So 2, can they be former lawyers, so they've retired? Is that fine? Or do they have to be actively
I
practicing?
think they don't have to be active because some law professors might have an inactive license, but they have to have a current license.
Connor?
Internship supervisor count as an employer, you know?
Yeah, it would, internship, or if you worked at a clinic, anything like that.
Okay, good. Aaron?
If the 2 lawyers that you use are also employers, does that satisfy both, or do you
No.
have to do separate?
You have to have them separate. They have to be
Yeah.
separate. So don't use your employer, pick your employer ones carefully. Okay.
Donna?
So I'm self-employed and have been for 20-odd years. But I have relationships at some of the companies I do business with.
Right.
My contacts there would qualify?
The answer to that is really all you have. I mean, almost everybody has done a clinic or they've done some sort of legal internship where they can actually have someone who supervises their work.
Okay.
Do you think professors would count for like fellowships or like if you work directly under someone?
Possibly, I guess you'd have to describe maybe
Okay.
what
Yeah.
level of contact was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, any other questions about character references? Jen?
What about ex-spouses? Technically, they're not family anymore.
Spouses, do they count as family members or romantic partners of their exes?
I guess I'd have to say yes. I mean, what we're looking for is a more objective, reference. And that could be good or bad, right?
Rob?
So how involved is that referenced? Do they just check off the box? When I tell them that, will you be a reference for me? Like, how much of a time commitment are they
It is
talking?
not any at all because it's a form that they just answer questions and check the box. We've tried to make it super easy. But that doesn't mean they'll do it quickly. So I still would give them an adequate time.
Any other questions? Jason?
So do the employers, is that only legal employers, or can this be like
No.
employers from
It's
previous?
any employer.
All right. Excellent. So, yeah, start making amends with people you know. NPRE score. So, the NPRE score must be sent directly to the admissions office. If you haven't taken the NPRE, you should. The next one is March 24th. I might be there again. We'll find out next week, hopefully. But registration is also February 1st. And so, once again, just make sure you follow. Oh. Okay, perfect. And so, yeah, just make sure you register before that if you need to take it. I think, oh, that's actually not bad. Credit report. It will be checked, so make sure it's correct, especially in the post-Equifax world we live in right now. So if you have a bunch of credit cards, you know, all over across the country, you might want to resolve that sooner than later. Additional forms, maybe. So there's a whole litany of things that might require additional forms. Check it out, see if this matters to you. And especially, like, once again, you know, disclose everything fully, completely, will make your life easier. Yes?
Alright, so with the bill charged and sent off to collections, I had one, but it's because it was identity fraud and I had it taken off my credit report. Do I still have to disclose that even though it wasn't me, or?
I can't hear.
No. So she had a collections issue that was due to identity theft, and it's been taken care of. It's off the record. Is it okay to get? Yeah.
If it's, I mean, I always encourage people to pull a credit report, make sure it's not on there. If it is on there, I would explain the situation. You'd probably want to follow up with that credit agency to get it off the report if it's a matter of identity theft.
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like if it's off the report, then you should be more than fine. But if it's on there, and you're dealing with it, make sure you explain it. Yeah. Any other questions about additional forms? All right. This is going to be a fun one. Past addresses for the last 10 years.
Cool.
So I've lived in a different place every year for the last 10 years. At least one place every year for the last 10 years. So start digging out your old letters. Figuring out if it isn't going to be an issue for you, it's better to know now. I do have a question though. Joni, so there's a good portion of students here who might have been in a different country for 2 years or even locally, serving a mission and all that.
Right.
What's the best way to address those
Well,
absences?
all of that's actually in the filing instructions.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but, so all you would do is, if you've stayed abroad or you've had religious service, you just put the main address, like if there's a mission home or the location of the study abroad program.
Okay, no, which is good. That'll make my life much easier. 'Cause moving once a year is a lot, but moving every 6 weeks is a lot more. So this is also going to be a fun one for some of us. List every permanent and temporary job you have held since you were 18 years of age, or in the last 10 years. Yeah. So I'm part of the gig economy. I've been like independent contractor multiple times, and I have no idea what I've done. I know I made money somehow, but so this will be a fun one, but something to also look forward to. I wish I was self-employed for the last 20 years. That would make my life much easier. So everything needs to be signed and notarized, authorization and release, applicant verification, make sure everything's correct, no fudging, which I think is a very good practice as law students and as we become actual attorneys. Let's prevent fudging. We can let other law schools and other law students do that, but not us. Yes?
Susan Baca in admissions is a notary, and she's happy to sign off on that. Don't sign your name until you're sitting in her office, and she doesn't charge anything.
Awesome. Oh, that's
I'm
actually great to
also a
know.
notary and will do it for free as well.
Who's a notary?
Kylie Sylvie.
Kylie Sylvie?
Yes.
Okay, Kylie Sylvie. And Susan Fonta downstairs, so, yeah. But yeah, the big thing is, don't sign it until you have a notary there. So that's probably the big takeaway. Although I like to sign things willy-nilly, so it's really hard. It's why I support public television here. So keep your application updated. It will be online, and so as you kind of go along, and especially as you might have changing circumstances, you move. Hopefully nothing terrible happens in between, but make sure you just keep it updated. So the application is completed and submitted online. The only two things that outside of the online process are your certificate of law school graduation and then your character references. And so those will be separate from the online application.
Egan,
Yes.
something else to add. Don't worry about the certificate of law school graduation, just toss it. I do it automatically for everybody graduating in May and sitting for the July exam. If you're gonna wait until February, then you will need to get me the form. But for current graduates, I just take care of it.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. That's probably saves us time. So all other supplementary documents must be scanned and uploaded using your online account. So this is something, we have scanners here. If you don't have one available to you elsewhere, 7-Eleven sometimes has them too. Well, they did. They had printers back in the day. There's also FedEx. So this is important right here. Your application is not considered submitted or filed until all required documentation has been received and you have emailed your declaration of completion to the admission office. And so, once again, make sure you follow the steps correctly so it is actually submitted and not just done. And that is it. That's all I have information-wise. Are there any questions that you might have generally about the bar application process? And luckily, we have Dean Dickey here and also Joni from the bar who can hopefully guide us. So let's start with Connor.
Yeah. So is the application something it's online with your account, or do you download it, fill it out, and then turn it in? How does it work? Is it through your account?
Yes.
So it's all online?
Yes, except for the character references and the graduation certificate, which is being done by Dean Dickey. Those things will be returned separately, then uploaded, and then submitted that way. So that'll actually require paper.
So it would be good to just start. Professor Richards said to fill it out like a year ago. I haven't, so should you just start filling it out right now online and it will be saved?
No. That's not gonna work. We don't, we post applications a couple of months before each exam. So right now, you won't find the July bar application there. You will find a sample so that you can look through the questions. You also have a checklist that says these are the documents you need. So you can start working on it, but it's not gonna be till the last week of December that you will actually have the application posted. And at that point, you pull it up and start going through it with the filing instructions and answer the questions.
I know there are other questions. Could we just have a list of things that we can do over Thanksgiving for those
Well,
people?
as I said, I just go to the bar's website and look at the checklist.
Just like the references.
Yeah, that first slide has a great link to the checklist and everything.
Yeah.
Look at that and see what you can start dealing with. Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So in my undergraduate, I worked as both a research assistant and a teacher's assistant in the same semester, but I was an employee of the University of Utah the whole time. Do I need to separate those two jobs?
You do, and you need to explain why you have two jobs at the same time.
Okay.
So you just explain they were both part-time, but they were the same period of time.
Josie.
Okay,
I'm sorry if this isn't relevant to anyone else. As I was moving around, I had important mail sent to my parents' house, but I never actually lived there. So do I need to put that down as an address where I resided if like mail was sent there?
It's not typically, I mean, I don't know quite exactly all the details of that, but I think that's probably not gonna help us in the investigation. Part of what we're looking at is the frequency of changing your living situation to make sure that you've left on good terms at the various places you've lived, that type of thing.
Okay.
Taylor.
So when you take the MPRE and you select Utah as the jurisdiction, do you have to do something additional now?
No.
Okay.
It will come to us, and eventually, we have you'll get an account and you can go and check yourself. You just have to give us adequate time to update it. So the minute you might get your MPRE results, we're not gonna have it that quickly. Yeah, one of the points I wanted to make is that although it's online, when we get supplemental information, it's not an automatic upload situation. It's a situation where the staff has to physically go and upload, each document. And so you need to give us some time, a few days, to get that to reflect new information. Others?
Jake, do you have a question? Are you?
Yeah, kind of. All right. So, do you guys start investigating us the minute we fill out like a profile, or do you not? Do you wait until we click the submit for declaration?
Well, yeah. The thing is that.
So hypothetically, if I wanted to erase my social media presence completely, would I do it as soon as I create the profile, or would I do it the day before I hit the button submit?
I am not going to answer that question for you. But what I will say that the reason we have the declaration of completion is so that you understand, that we're not going to just be looking through stuff until we have a complete application. Some people do registrations and never complete the application.
Got it.
Or they don't get it done in time for the deadline, right? And there seems to be a misunderstanding about that. On the other hand, though, you want to complete it and send that declaration to us as soon as you've gathered your references and sent them to us. That's usually the last step. Because as soon as we get the declaration, we will start reviewing the application. And you want us to do that. Because if there's any deficiencies that we can find and let you know about, that gives you an opportunity to correct it. One of the problems we have is that people don't file till the last minute. And then they're mad because there's no time to correct the application. They're choosing to wait to the very last deadline was their decision. But they don't take it as their responsibility and then are upset. We cannot change the deadlines. And if you don't have a complete application, we won't accept it. And complete doesn't just mean you've checked off the boxes. It also means that when we do the investigation, we don't discover that there's things you haven't disclosed. Because that can be, and often is, an even more serious problem. The answers themselves are incorrect because you do have civil actions. There are criminal, criminal actions that haven't been reported. Lots of traffic tickets that haven't been reported. So both of those pieces, so I really encourage people to get it in as soon as you can, like at the first opportunity, because that increases the likelihood that we'll have an opportunity to review it. At the same time, it's always your responsibility to make sure it's complete. That's why we have a checklist and those things. It's not the bar's responsibility to prove or to check your application. So don't ask us to do that. We have 400 or 500 applications. We can't go through and see if you actually did it all correctly. That has to be your responsibility, and certainly people who are asking to be licensed as attorneys ought to be able to fill out an application correctly by themselves.
If you have like traffic tickets that went into abeyance, like you did the clean abeyance thing, so it doesn't show up on your record.
Doesn't matter, they need to be reported in the last 10 years. And it says that too, but people often don't pay attention. I really encourage you, not only do we have filing instructions, but each question actually gives you information about the things that people most often mistake. So the fact you went to driving school and it's not listed doesn't change the fact that we're still, when we do a search on Exchange, it's still gonna come up. And it also tells you how to do that search, so that whatever, so it matches.
So for the references, could I have 4 attorneys from my firm give the references, 2 of which are employers and 2 of which are attorneys?
I mean, you can do that. I would really recommend that we want employer references from people who know your work. So it's important that the 2 from the law firm that you ask be ones who are supervising work you're doing. The ones who do that the most of those 4.
But I could have 2 attorneys from the firm also who work with me.
Right.
Okay.
Who know you.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think it's important. I don't know that many of you will have no character and fitness problems, but it is odd when we get general references or different kinds of things from people who've known them for 3 months. That some you think you would expect some people to have a little more information about you for a longer period of time. So some things are going to be shorter because employers are going to be shorter time frames and that type of thing, and maybe attorneys too. But anyway, I would consider that, because you want somebody who really who knows you. Another problem we get with references is people who get it from their best friend. They say right on it, I've known this person 25 years, they're my best friend. And they check yes on every single thing. And then it turns out, that they had a number of juvenile arrests, minor in possession. And that's one of the things. Has this person ever, had legal action that you know of, and they don't report it? I mean, they should report it. A reference isn't much help if the person doing it isn't honestly completing the form. And we're gonna know, so then it gets really weird that your best friend doesn't know this stuff about you.
Just asking for a friend. If the application gets denied, can he be told before he sits through 2 days of bar exam?
Well, that's one of the beauties of taking it in Utah, is we do character and fitness up front. So you actually won't be allowed to sit until you've been approved by character and fitness. And by and large, I think that's a super advantage of the way we do it, because then once you pass the exam, you move right on to getting sworn in and becoming a member of the bar. Whereas other states, larger states, don't even look at them. They just review the ones who pass, right? So that cuts their workload down. But some of those people, it can be 2 years before they finally make decisions on character and fitness. On the other hand, the way we do it means that there's a very short turnaround. So if you do have to come for an interview or a hearing, you're not gonna have tons of notice, and you're really gonna need to make every effort to be there. Because if you don't do it, there's no guarantee we're gonna be able to reschedule you, and you may miss the exam. In addition, if we deny you and you wanna take further action, that's gonna be very difficult to do before the exam. So, it works both ways.
One quick question. Let's say you have you didn't get charged with anything or convicted with anything when you're like under 18, like minor trespassing, don't do it again thing. Should you put that on there?
Right, if you actually read the questions, you'll see that in every case, they're written to be as expansive as possible. It's not about convicted.
Yeah.
It's about, have you been investigated? Have you been questioned? I mean, so in almost all cases, I say report it.
With the temporary addresses, is there like a cutoff for that? Like, how long should one be? Like, for example, if you're in the military and I had a home of record in like 3 or 4 different places, but then I was sent on missions for a couple months at a time, a lot.
There are really, minimums, but I suspect in the case like yours, that if you just give us your home base on each of the, yours, that's where your service, was assigned from, but they may have relocated you on a temporary basis, that would be sufficient.
With temporary employment, how long, because I worked quite a few temporary jobs before I started my undergrad, and some of them were like just a day.
Wow.
I worked through a temp service.
Yeah, I mean, some people in that situation will just say, I work for this temp service, and this is who they are, and they had me doing a lot of different things. And then we have someone, an entity we can contact. Other questions? Yeah.
Another one, what if your employer no longer is in business and no longer has contact information?
Right, you just say that, this is what it was at the time, but it's helpful to us if you just let us know. My understanding is they're no longer in business. I have a couple of notes. Let me see. I think we've covered much of it. All our correspondence with you will be with the electronic system. So be sure that you're regularly checking your emails and your dashboard, because every communication we have will be sent that way. So if there's a problem with your application, we expect that you're looking, regularly at that stuff so that you can respond. Because if we find a problem, we're going to give you a deadline to respond. And so it really is pretty critically important that you keep track of that. If anything that you do need to change or update, you just go ahead and you can upload it to the system. We want to make sure that you always have a current email address. And also, one of the important parts before you send that registration in is that you whitelist the Utah Bar address, and it tells you in the instructions to do that. But people don't, and then it goes to spam, and then they send us email saying, I don't know, I sent my registration in, but I never got the email. Or if I got it, it won't let me in. But once you get it, you have to link in and open the account. And so, if you don't get that email that allows you to create your account at that point, then it's probably gone to spam. Let's see. I told you about the applications and the filing deadlines. If some people think a way around the filing deadlines is to just turn in the application even though they know it's incomplete, that's not a good strategy, because we will always ask you for the late fees if you do that. And it just makes us, do that much more work, because we have to follow up with you. So, if you know that there's a bunch of stuff that's still not there, the supporting documentation, just file it with, once you've got it, and pay the regular late fee that would be associated with that. Let's see, as far as the FBI thing, I just wanted to let you know, some people miss this in the instructions. They will not forward your background check. So if you know you're gonna move, you should wait till after you've moved, or have an address that will still see you as someone that they could deliver it to. Because if the FBI doesn't permit the post office to forward those, for obvious reasons, they're pretty confidential. So those go back to the FBI. We talked about amending it, but you only have 10 days to amend your application, so make sure that you're aware of that. It's important to be as candid and honest and fully disclosing as possible. You must provide full explanations. Sometimes we see people who've had some pretty serious things occur, and they will just sort of say it happened with no explanation. That obviously we're going to follow up anyway. It's just much, much better if right from the get-go you explain the circumstances. This is what happened. This may be why it's happened, and where you are now. all of those are helpful. Because we do our own investigation, and for example, we will review the police report. So you shouldn't provide an explanation that contradicts the police report. If you do, then your explanation needs to say, I see the police report says this, but I maintain this is what happened. At least acknowledge, that there's a difference, because it's very surprising to me how many people get the material and submit it, but don't appear to have ever read the supporting documentation. So then when we ask them questions about it, it's clear they don't remember it, they didn't look at it, they don't know what it says, and how it might differ from their account. Let's see. And I also caution because, everything's on the internet now. So I guess it would seem like you guys would be really aware of that already. But we find everything, basically. And not just in Utah, we find things, no matter where, all over the country. It's kind of the same situation. So it doesn't protect you necessarily that whatever happened didn't happen in Utah. And it's just so much better to be upfront. It just raises a lot of questions. We just had an interview last week with someone who had a major thing that happened while they were in law school. But then once we got into the interview, there were several important things that had occurred that were not reported. So even if we think, we think he's over this other thing that we thought was the problem, how do we deal with the fact that he knew these things had happened and apparently intentionally just didn't disclose them? Either because he was too lazy to get, to do the legwork to find the reports. I don't know the reasons people don't disclose. But, I just would really encourage you to start early, get it all. A lot of you will not have that much, but if you have some things that you're going to have to track down, then you should really do that. Also last week, the Character and Fitness Committee denied an applicant just because they filed an incomplete, inaccurate application. This person had tons of businesses, there were civil actions, professional licenses, and financial problems, including tax liens and bankruptcies. None of this was in the application. So,
Right.
Let's see. We talked about credit reports. Experian is the one we rely on, so that's the one I would recommend that you check. And just be aware that you can't be approved with unsatisfied judgments, tax liens, outstanding support obligations, or defaulted student loans. If you have unpaid debts, you really should resolve that as much as possible now. It is not going to work to send us an application that says, I'm working on it. That's really not going to do it. It also doesn't work to say, debts you've had for years and years and years, and right before as you file the application, you enter into payment arrangements you'll pay them $5 a month going forward. I mean, that may be all you have, but you probably could have entered into those arrangements much earlier than now. So it really just appears at that point that you're trying to, get around the requirement rather than meet the requirement of fiscal responsibility. And I know, oddly, that some people don't see that as an important character and fitness indication, but the studies that have been done on this, when they look at attorney discipline, in the top 5 of those, when they correlate it between their applications, are people that have financial problems. So, for whatever reason, there is a fairly high correlation between financial problems and people who go on to have problems in practice. And that's also true, by the way, for moving traffic violations. That's in the top 10. So.
Who gets an interview? And our interview is a bad thing.
Well, I don't think most people want to come. I mean, to be candid, I the people that get interviews tend to be people who, there are issues that we want to resolve. There's lots of reasons that happens. I think sometimes it is because people don't provide sufficient information up front, that might allow the committee to just resolve it. Another thing that happens is we find stuff that wasn't reported. And other times it's just because, their past history is got some serious concerns. And so those are the people that are brought in.
I think I remember it saying something with the fingerprints that we have to put personal on, or how complicated is it if we have something else other than personal?
Well, there's only so many. Like, you go online, you'll see this is all controlled by the FBI, and they don't allow. Like, if we tried to have you give them to us and send them, they wouldn't do it for the bar because we're a nonprofit entity as opposed to a government agency. So the only way for you to get that background check is to put personal on it. Or they have to have a reason to process that and send it to you. And as it turns out, you all have a right to see what the FBI has as far as your criminal background record. And so that's how we get that information.
Okay, yeah, I just have two lying around. I'm not sure if they have personal on them or not.
Well, they have to be within 6 months.
Yeah.
So there's probably, it's unlikely that's gonna work.
Okay.
They have to be current. Yeah.
All right. If we're interested in being licensed in another state, do you have any information on that whatsoever?
Well, I do have some. I don't know if we still have time. I don't want to hold you.
I can ask you after.
I am going to be here after. I do have we are a uniform bar exam state. I would just say that. And that now there are 29 states you can transfer your bar exam score to. But the thing to understand is that some states only give you a year to do it. Some give you more time, so you really need to check that. You also need to check what the cut score is because every state has their own, and many of the surrounding states that do UBEs have a higher cut score than Utah does. So I want you to remember that when you get your results back, that if it doesn't go the way you want, lots of jurisdictions would have had an even higher requirement than we do. So we do UBEs, you can use a laptop, but of course it's your responsibility and you have to upload your essay answers that first night. So be aware of that. Security's tight at the exam. You're only allowed to bring in car keys, a credit card, and maybe money and picture ID. And then that has to be put in a small transparent plastic bag that you can seal and put under your desk. Your pockets have to be emptied and no other materials can come in. Things like tissues, pencils, erasers, things like that are provided by the bar, as well as foam earplugs. We give you one set each day on that. And that's all controlled by the NCBE, which is the testing entity that prepares the materials and basically requires states to adopt these security measures. Okay. Any other questions? All right, thanks, you guys.
Johnny will stick around for a few minutes.
We were gonna have some. Do you guys prefer this by December or leave it like January?
I didn't know what. A lot of people did. Yeah. He gave a great presentation.
What here is
But if it's as simple as
That really would be.
And then,
Sure, they've done it before.
Oh,
is that kind of like the argument?
Hopefully your family is
I'm just terrified all the time, so I mitigate everything seriously.
But let us know.
they do, but just.
It's a problem.
Social media.
I can find out if it's 10 years from the date we applied, or 20 years from the year. No, maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I can do a presentation key.
Yeah, you would great, dynamite.
Yeah, PowerPoint's nice. Any other?
I'm honestly not worried about anything.
Yeah.
So, what is actually for friends?
And you work.
Yeah, okay, that's. Yeah, a lot more fun, yeah. So, does SBA pay for that, or is that school?
It's both, however, in the past, we have charged, but it's like $20.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So, she's
I think it was maybe
basically how to go about that position,
for the first
on her
two,
driver's license.
Okay.
and then if you wanna bring families, it's
Okay.
so we're really kind of calm
Yeah.
spouses.
Yeah.
But if you bring them,
Well, now it's just.
No, that's fair, yeah, okay. Yeah, easy enough then.
Yeah, it has a big.
Cool.
I always think, you know, really
Thank you very much for the
Uh-huh.
pizza and
Thank you for
everything.
doing this.
I mean,
correlates, right?
especially if you're young, I
think
wanted the
we'll
job,
have
this
done
is
by
what they
Wednesday?
required, you know?
But,
I mean,
yeah.
what can you do? That's
If
the
you-
truth.
I'm really
Yeah.
not worried about any
Okay,
of
and
it.
then my
I
next
think you
question
should be.
is,
Her stuff
when
in.
you
You've
list
been
all
these
your
modelers.
employees,
I don't know
sometimes
about
with like.
I don't know about that, but
I'll look at it.
Like
I know
to
I've
the
been-
day,
All
or
in
we'll have to
changes.
finish.
I know.
I think it's more, it's really month and year, but it should be quite logical that
Oh,
as
no.
residences, it's really a problem when
So
they're
we'll make
in
sure
correct
to
order,
check
and, you know, like, it doesn't make sense.
Their only concern is
Or
that
if you have
you're
big
not bad.
And
gaps,
that
like you
way, by the time
apparently
Monday
didn't live
morning comes
anywhere for
around,
3
you have
years.
to finish out.
Okay.
You know, or you didn't
Or you can
have a
send it
job
in.
for a long
Then
time,
I
I
can
mean,
start
you,
preparing
most
everything,
people
and I'll
who
just
are
make sure
younger,
it's
so they
ordered,
may
like,
not
whatever.
have always been working,
I'm just
but
trying
they
to
have
figure out
older
how
applicants that can't account for
dual
what they were
licenses
doing
at
for
the
a
same
big blocks
time.
of time. We're gonna ask about
And
that.
then we have to.
Okay, and
I'm
then
just
what
thinking
is
it's
kind of the
probably cheaper
definition of an
because it
employer, I
sounds
guess,
like
like
what
it's
you
got
guys
a pay stub or?
No, I don't think we limit it to that, because some people
Accepted
can't
into one
meet the
state
requirement
bar,
for two
and it's
employers
just
that
one,
way.
Yeah.
at least
I
from
mean,
what
you're not
I'm
getting
reading,
paid
sounds
for the
like it's more
clinic,
just a
you're not
license.
getting.
No, I mean like for the
You know what you
employee
should
list,
do
like,
is
I've worked-
contact the bar,
Probably had
the
like
next
six
day
employers.
Yeah, 'cause I
Because
wanted
they
to
don't
do
have
Some of them were like for
Right, that's
weekend
probably what I
time
should do.
to work just a ski camp, but
Yeah, she may
I
not
would
know.
still get paid like through a.
Yeah,
At this
Because I
point,
just
though,
I do like
yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, how intense are you gonna be? Because I'm gonna really have to be close to photos.
Then that's
Yeah,
good for me.
so it's gonna be hard.
I mean, it's your life.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I would hope you would have
Other than
access
that,
to
it's like,
records,
should we
and I mean, I
reorganization or
understand that
not?
it can be burdensome when someone has a situation like that.
Yeah, well, I just, yeah, okay, then yeah, that's, I do that.
So then where I can start my drawers.
Rent a room, how do I indicate that when I list the address? Because
I mean,
four people
there's a-
have that, had that
This
address, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and I mean, a lot of times that's true, right? Because a lot of times people have roommates.
Right.
So they're not only person.
Right, but like we each rented separately the room. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So there were 4 rooms.
So that I did, yeah, that's what I'm getting. Yeah, so since San Francisco, so like,
It's,
you know how that works.
you know, I don't know that that's very important, but if you, there's certainly places where you can just give that information.
Because I don't know.
Just type it in.
My best friend has one.
Yeah, right, right, I mean, just, that's the address, this is the time.
We could leave with it because it does talk about the whole program,
Do they have a
talks about why we're
term for
here, and
Okay.
that's the opportunity to stay
Like, I
outside.
thought that they might have a term.
They
for
have
it.
like an in-law,
Yeah,
just stuff, but it wasn't
like
like that, it was just.
Yeah,
like,
should.
and then
So
story.
we could do like one.
So that's one of
Yeah.
mine. Plus it has the dates I was
Outside,
there
so I
from.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay,
Okay, so just.
in that way.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome, I
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
Here's
And then the
Matthew's
facts, like,
application.
I've been waiting to hold on to that.
I would love to.
Okay, it's all yours. Thanks, Jody.
Did you get that?
Right.
Yes.
Using it also.
Yeah, on the individual outfalls.
Yes.
I could just say like, a facility operates a series of outfalls.
Okay, so here's the question, if we get to a point where we're arguing and we forgot to do that, we forgot to add this to the process.
What if you saw, I mean,
Can we still?
I got a contact, I haven't got out the details yet.
So if we just, like if I totally miss something and I should have involved, like I'm just gonna put one and I did mention it in our facts.
All right.
When we're actually arguing the case,
So
can we argue that?
if we plan to go directly to inactive status.
That's a good question. The rules
I
might
would
answer
hold a
that.
mentorship program
Well,
that we have
off the
to
top of my
do
head, I'm gonna say
to
they're
avoid
not gonna use
administration.
because
Does that still apply if we're, because
But you have to do it when there's only.
Obviously gonna be things that we
Go
do somewhere.
inactive, but it's.
And if we were constrained just to what we
like if I ever
argued
activate
or
or
have initially,
but I can hold that off for
but
indefinitely.
it does sound right.
Or forever.
Huh?
Yeah.
Bring stuff to argument.
Cool, thank you.
You don't have to get it yet.
Choose your first.
Well, I think, because if going for that, I would feel like.
Okay, now the 10 years for the address, does it count as of the day
Well,
you
our page
submitted it,
doesn't
or?
include.
Yeah, I mean, I
Page
wouldn't.
table of authorities.
So if I submit it in 2018, do I have to go back to 2007's addresses or 2008 addresses?
I mean, probably 2008, but I mean, honestly, I don't know that the address is
Because that was like 1
the
o'clock at
most
night where I
critical
don't
thing in the
know if
application.
complete
But there are times where it looks like people intentionally
Yes.
are trying to hide
all
something
the
bad that
arguments
happened
there.
outside
No,
the
no, no,
10-year
no, I
period.
just looked into
You know,
Japan
so
at the beginning
that's all
of
I'm
2007,
saying.
and I don't
Yeah.
know what my address there was, and so
Right.
I'm not sure if I
And
have
when,
anything
and
with
when
that
did you
on it.
return?
Section 402.
Early 2007, I was there for a few months.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
so I
that's-
just, I don't wanna like,
Right.
But,
you know,
I mean, it
cause a-
isn't the worst
I
thing in
think
the
it's
world
too
either
long
to
as
just
well.
say, this is
So
what I
I feel like I
did,
wrote
this
a
is
lot
the
of stuff.
dates, and I don't
So if we
remember
do
the
get to
address.
like a hard page limit,
Okay,
No.
so yeah, I'm
We
trying to
tend
find
to, we try,
paperwork
you know,
about it.
we try to believe people as a rule that, the sad part for me in this job is
but it's
when
fun.
to the extent
I mean,
we bring
it's
people
a
in,
little
the more we
bit of
dig, the more we find. And that's very troubling to me, that it's so often not complete, that's
My
what
son's
really.
birthday is on
But
Saturday.
that doesn't, I don't
But
mean to
we put
paint
off
everybody
his
with that
party
brush, because
until
that's just the people
the
that end
end
up,
of
you
next
talk
week.
to, you know, specifically, and that's a small number.
No, I'm not worried, I had such a hard time even getting a passport because nobody could
Well,
find any
let's, yeah,
history
I mean,
on
if you got a
me.
birthday on Saturday, I don't wanna mess that
So
up at
my,
all.
my
So let's make
background
sure
was,
to try and
I
have
just
it
don't know
done
my
by
address
Friday.
was in early 2000s.
Well, yeah,
I mean, that
And
is
table
one
of
change,
contents.
like, we
Well,
used to always,
Saturday
we always had
is-
credit
is fine,
reports,
and
and we
then
find
Sunday I
that
can
the
work,
current
I can just do
generation
the whole thing. I
are
can
more
go
likely
through and
not
make
to
sure
have
that,
any
like,
credit
the
history,
first
which
time we
is
cite
not
something.
typical,
Yeah.
it's not the way it was.
Yeah, and
And I had
The
to go, I
defined
had
terms
history,
are
it's
all,
pretty nice.
you already
I had
started.
one
doing
medical
that.
bill, went to
Yeah.
collections, paid it off, and I realized it
in the
was,
right
it was
order
like
and
30
everything, and I
bucks.
can
Yeah.
fine tune that on
Yeah, we're
Sunday.
not,
Otherwise,
And
it's
like I said, I don't
fine,
have
I'm not
any
afraid of
kids
anything being
so
found, I
I just have
not
to
sure if I
finish
need to
quilting my.
dig
you,
for that
you just wanna
address
do
or not.
what you're
All right,
required to do. Yeah, it typically
I'll
is
double check
10
and
days
see
from when you're
what we
gonna
need
file
to
it.
do. I'll try and put like
Okay,
a
so I just
FedEx
wanna
order
make
10
sure.
years rather,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I just wanna make
stuff.
sure, cause I don't know if I have anything
Then,
that written down on it, I just wanna make sure that's not going to
And
cause
if
me.
It's
you
weird,
want-
like a
probably
brief, like,
Okay.
so it's like needs to be a green piece of paper with text on it, is that
So
what it
first
says?
Yeah, so
Okay.
usually it's,
And it just doesn't need to be bound at a wise reason for
So
flat
I
actually.
worked at that for a hotel
Take
in
to mean
Alaska.
something
I had a criminal passport.
anybody.
I just put the hotel.
Okay, so just like
Yeah.
employee
Doesn't need to be
has
like a.
Yeah, that hotel, and yeah.
Actually, like, book
Okay.
it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the second question is, do you have to get
It
new
says,
from any
the federal rules of appellate procedure ordinance. It's
Every
like,
place you've had a license,
either
you still have
bound
to
or
report any.
Yeah,
so it's like,
people
If
go
I
along
get
the
a
side and I'm
speeding
like,
ticket in
if
Wyoming,
we
I
can
still
stay
have to
split, then I
report
think we're okay.
I don't
Then
have
it'll look a lot
a- I
cooler,
don't have a
nicer, and if you don't
license.
have to pay for it either,
Okay.
like.
And then in that case, we have, I lived in Japan for 3 years. Yeah, so I'm wondering if the first page is over when I was.
Well, I think there's a time frame on it. Was it-
And then, yeah, we will need to make sure, because there's a measuring brief And then there's the 6 other ones.
Wow.
You're not hiding the fact that they're licensed.
I don't think we've ever had that, honestly,
Yeah,
but
there's
you know, all you can do is your
there.
best.
And then we need the
You
flash
know,
drive.
do you have a car,
with
do you have the
copy on it,
license?
And then we need to email.
still have the license.
I mean, you could
yeah.
physically take a copy, picture of it,
Yes,
but
that
do what
is
you can,
well.
because that really doesn't tell us
So-
much. It does say that it verifies that, yes, it's
Well,
an
and if you need help
active.
with any.
I did have one.
I have contacts, and I'll try and find a USB enabled USB, because I'm sure.
Records?
Yeah.
There wouldn't be, I never had a ticket or a violation or anything
Alright.
for 2 years ago
Right.
over there.
I mean, I don't,
Shaping
you know, and I don't
Yep.
even know, to be honest with you, what.
Almost.
you
And then we get to take
but
finals.
They're pretty.
I know.
They're pretty developed, they're pretty developed, and you'll be able to, I think we'll be able to read in
I don't know
years.
how many. I've lost track of how many.
And it's
types
just
of- okay.
it's just going.
Okay.
Going. He
Appreciate
doesn't
it.
slow down. Like, oh, it's so rough.
And he's going, and I know it was optional, that alternate energy sources.
Yeah.
But I was really hoping to actually go through
Yeah,
some
a
of
little bit
that
of it.
instead of like the recreation stuff that he's gonna go through.
Yeah.
But I honestly have not.
Can I answer, did you have a question or you can answer
No,
it?
so-
You're just waiting, okay.
One thing that takes so much for coming to do that.
Well, you're welcome, you guys, thanks for being nice about it, I know it's, you know, it's not a fun, thing, but no matter what state you go to, it's the same thing you go through, so you just kind of, it's sort of like something everyone goes through. It's,
Absolutely. Rite of passage, right?
it is somewhat like that, but I hope for a good reason.
I don't
If
think it'll
you
be
saw
too
some of
bad.
the applications that I do, you would understand why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I like your comment of if you're applying for the bar, you should be able to follow, yeah.
You know, it is kind of flabbergasting to me. I have applicants that want us to go through question by question. It's craziness. And I did not ever think coming in here that people at that level of education would be that hapless. Honestly, it probably concerns me as much as the fitness aspect. Because if you can't do that, seriously, why would we let you represent clients?
Right.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
swapping out for your vacation time on Wednesday and then just head out.
I don't think this will like, you know. Like if I was to work, like I have to come in on Wednesday to get my half day, I don't think.
Really? You don't think like what Kevin would do?
That's too bad. Everything's gone, like I said. Found the water tower.
Oh, where was it?
It was underneath. I also put all those toms that were just like sick and sitting.
Oh, awesome.
But I don't even know. I don't know who's been just kind of leaving them in the sea.
I put a few in there, but just from that, I don't know who's been adding. There was already a stack in there when I added the ones I put in.
Yeah.